Hi, it's Michael Pilarski with another wildcrafting video. And as my special honored guest today, we have Devil's Club, Oplopanix horridum. And it's a sacred plant. It's a sacred plant to all the people that know it at any rate, though some people don't like it very much because of its very thorny nature and they get on the bad side of it. But Native Americans really treasured it. It was one of their big medicines. And so we have some tobacco here, and we're going to offer some tobacco to the Devil's Club because we always make an offering before we harvest and when we're processing. It's just good to always be thankful for the Devil's Club. And we sing its song. Oplopanix, Oplopanix, horridus, horridum. You're such a nasty fellow, such a fine, fine maiden. We love you, we love you. So, it's only found in the Northwest and British Columbia and Alaska, and there is so much of this. You can unsustainably harvest it if you were in a locality where there wasn't much, but there is a gigantic amount of this stuff, and there was a lots of this here in the Cascade Mountains and the Olympic Mountains of Washington. So we go where there's a lot of it, and we harvest a small percentage of them, and then we come home and we clean up the sticks and we strip the bark. And so once we have the stems all cleaned with brushing and maybe a little butter knife, then we can do the stripping part. So I like to aim for nice long quills. Once the bark dries, there'll be quills. So long. And then once you got that main bark, then you come along. This is a non-serrated butter knife, old-fashioned, no serrations, so that you can go back and forth at the end and scrape all that little bit of intercambium bark off because you want to get all the good stuff, and because it's a sacred plant, you don't want to waste any. So I'm really careful at cleaning up my sticks really nice and getting down to a nice smooth finish. And if you had a serrated knife, it wouldn't work so good. So you have to go to Goodwill's or whatever. So there's the final product here, and here, and here. So these I use for craft. It's a craft material. You might say it's a sacred craft material, the nice white sticks. It's the lightest wood in the Pacific Northwest. It doesn't weigh very much. And for every pound of cleaned up stem, I get 1/4 pound of bark and 3/4 pounds of stick. So 1/4 of the weight of these is the bark, which is a high ratio for a plant, for a shrub. And I'm going to start something new. We're going to start selling the sticks to people, and we'll ship them to you, and you can do the stripping at home. And that way you get the very freshest material you could. Instead of waiting for it to be stripped and then shipped to you in the mail, it's doing a little oxidizing. You'll get the clean sticks like this. There's a bit of brown outer bark on these, but if it's been washed good and there's no dirt, that little bit of brown outer bark is not a problem. But if you get some sticks and they have some brown outer bark, you can finish the cleaning process if you want by gently doing that stripping there. But when I'm doing work, if it's a clean, I don't mind a little bit of that very thin outer bark on there. Now, here's a part that actually had some rot on it, so I have to make sure that doesn't go in the mix here. So there is rot on these things. You can see a big chunk here. So after I get these out of the woods, I come home, I wash them up, and I divide them into 3 piles. This is the pile with the thorns on it. Let's find a nice thorny one. Here's a pretty good one. Let's get a little close up here. These thorns are barbed and they fester and give you gangrene. They have a lot of times they'll have staph on there, and plus they have a poison in it. So it's poison, biological warfare, plus it digs into your, anyway, you don't want to get whacked by one of these guys. So we have to get all those spines off before we can, and that's a bit of work. The other part of it is all the pieces that have roots on, because I end up with some plants. You can pull these things out of the ground a lot of times, especially when it's moist time of the year, which usually is in the winter. I do this in the winter, late fall, winter, and maybe real early spring, but once they start budding out, I stop harvesting it. So all these roots are going into the bin here as a, you might say, special product, because the true roots have a huge amount of it's where you have the most of the active compounds, constituents. So the roots are just shipped whole. Here's the whole, all the roots from this particular shipment. So that gets washed up and that gets shipped straight to the buyer as is. This is the pile of sticks that the roots came off of. And so there's all these stubs in there. It makes it really difficult to strip. I probably won't sell that to anybody, but I'll do that at home. It's a lot of extra work to get those pieces cleaned up. And this one here, this is the biggest one I've harvested in a while. So this Devil's Club came out of the ground and headed uphill here. So there's a bit of the roots. Look at the diameter on that one. That's about almost as big as they get. They get that's a big one. There's bigger, but this is that's a big Devil's Club stem here. So I have to clean this all up. It'll take a bit of work scrubbing and using the knife a bit, get rid of the rot. So we'll strip that one. So, and this is the pile of the nice straight stems without spines, and these we have yet to scrub. So those are to be scrubbed. So we'll finish. That's the stuff we'll be shipping to people. So here they are, scrubbed up. And the last little piece I'll show you is whenever I do this, you'll always have some babies. See, there's a nice terminal bud, a root down there. See, it's hanging on there, hanging on for dear life. If I plant that, that'll grow. And these are the really nice pieces too. As long as I have a bit of top and a bit of root like this, these are excellent. This is about as good as they get. They got a terminal bud and a fair amount of root. I'll bury it about that deep, and I'll get some new plants, and I can bring it under cultivation. Nobody grows Devil's Club hardly at all. So there's a brief explanation of how to do Devil's Club. You have to wear really thick double-lined gloves, so you have to be really careful not to get those spines in you. And we gear up pretty good when we're doing the Devil's Club. And thanks to Ashley here, he's working with me getting this done. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Anna, for doing the video. And thank you, Devil's Club. As my Hawaiian friend told me, Moki Kim, he says, pray when you harvest the medicine. And then you pray when you process the medicine. And then you pray when you give the medicine to the client, to the patient. Prayer is 90% of the healing. Put lots of prayer into your herbs.